Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, Prof. Rudi. My name is Raditya Puput Novitasari, but simply you can call me Puput. I'm feeling so honored this afternoon to have this opportunity to answer some questions from you related to my research topic entitled Comparing the Naturalness of the English Indonesian translation text rendered by Google Translate and English graduate students. Without any further ado, I would like to answer your first questions. Is about how significant was the conduct of my research with this topic. Conducting this research about how English Indonesian translation texts sound natural is really important for some strong reasons. The first reason is if we see the translation tools like Google Translate becoming really popular, more and more popular years by years, so it's then urgent to understand how well the machines, especially Google Translate in this research, and also people, human being translations, especially English graduate students in my research, can make the translation sound natural. This study helps us to see how both of the Google Translate and English graduate students, work in translating Indonesian texts and what makes them different. Also, here in Indonesia, in our country, where lots of languages are spoken to each other and people comes from different cultures talk to each other as well, it's really important, it's really vital that translations sound like how people actually talk to each other, not to a robot. Or we can say in these terms, it's natural. My research helps the teachers or lecturers, students, or even translators do the better way at using different languages in rendering different translation texts. And also it guides us on how to use the Google Translate as the translation machine, and also helps people to make the communication between cultures way better. The second question from you is which one is better at sounding natural, human translations or machine translation, and give the reason why. Figuring out if human or machine translation sounds more natural is a bit tricky. It proves in the findings of my research. In my pre-assumption, I assume that the English graduate students will produce far higher highly natural sentences, highly natural clauses than the Google Translate. But surprisingly here, the Google Translate proves that they have not a wide gap in producing the highly natural translation product. The Google Translate produce around 70% of highly natural clauses, highly natural translation product in the Indonesian text. Meanwhile, the human translations here is English graduate students gained 84% in producing highly natural one. So 72 compared with 84, it's not really wide. It's not really wide in gap, and it's surprisingly my assumption is not 100% correct. People who do translations with all their language and culture right now usually make things sounds like the real talk to human being. Machines try to do this as well in its own way. It's using computer tricks or algorithms that Google Translate has, and they are getting better day by day, but humans still have a special touch in this. They can do the self-editing, they really stick on the cultural, socio-cultural approach, and then they have, what is that? They have opinion in the daily life, so they can fit their language to their Indonesian translation product. For creative stuff and understanding different cultures, humans are still the champions of these comparisons. But machines are super speedy and can save our time well and can handle lots of words quickly. The good thing is the good thing that I have found that now Google Translate is kind of trusted to help us as the translator to produce the good translation product. It can be more effective and save our time very well, but don't forget to still have the human touch in editing the translation product. Here, it will be better if you can use the touch of the English expert or maybe language expert to check whether your translation product is natural or not. If we mix both of human skills and machine speed, we can produce the better. We can produce better translation product. When people use machine to help them translate, it can make things sounds more and more natural and understandable by the human that read our translation product. The next question is, what did my research find out? My research tells us a lot about how natural translation sounds in Indonesia, because it's English Indonesian translation text. We look at translations made by Google Translate and by English students learning how to translate. We found that some translations sounds highly natural, some sounds natural, and a little amount of them sounds less natural and unnatural. The translations that feel most like real talk, or we call it natural, are usually the ones using everyday language and phrases. Humans are really good at this because they understand how people and how their cultures stick on them, and they also know how to talk in different situations, so they know the language that fit the source text to produce in the target text. Machines do a pretty good job still, but they sometimes mess up with the words, especially in the idiom expressions in this narrative text I used in my research. And then the next question is, what's different? What is the difference between my research and what others did before on the previous research? Other studies did some work, and we built up on that while also focusing on something special. In the past, they mostly checked if the words were right, but right now we went deeper than that. Most of the researchers have already checked the accuracy of the translation product, but sometimes they forget that not only the accuracy that is important, not only not only the choice of words that important to be right or wrong. It's not only about the right and wrong, but here, as the translation product, especially in my research is Indonesian translation text, we need to more focus on how Indonesian people or how the readers, when read the translation product, they really understand on how the content of the translation product itself, because we sometimes not interesting. We sometimes do not interest to read the translation product, since it is not really natural. It is not really it doesn't really fit on our target language, which is Indonesia. And then we sometimes got confused if we read the translation product. So in this research, really different with the past, um, because they mostly check in the words right or wrong. But now we look at how well translation sounds more natural, sounds like real conversation, sounds like real using the target languages, especially those tricky idioms and cultural things. This gives us a better idea of what makes a translation really awesome. Next questions is, how does my research help translations in Indonesia, or what the impact or my research in translation field in Indonesia. My research has impact on translation in Indonesia in some good ways. The first one, it helps the teachers and students learn how to make the translation sounds natural. So I hope people can more concerned about how producing the more natural translation product, as well as they focus on the accuracy and so far and so on. So when people read the translation, it feels like they are still talking to a real friend, not into a machine and got some confusing words or sentences. Next, it shows us that both of people and machines have their own strengths and weakness. When they work together, translation can be more awesome. Humans know how to make things sound right, and machines are really fast. Putting both of them together gives us the best results that I have stated in the previous one. Also, in the world of translation study, my research brings new ideas about what makes translations good. It's not just about getting the words right, but also making them sound like they belong. So in the source text, it sounds natural, and I hope that in translation product in the target text, it also sounds natural as well as in the source text. So my research helps to make translation between languages and cultures better in Indonesian languages. It gives practical advice and insights for both translators and regular people who use machines for translation, and that makes conversation between different languages much smoother and more awesome, not only in Indonesia, I mean, like, not only in one part of Indonesia, but it's in a whole Indonesia. And then, if I also concern in some of the impact for translators and the people in general, my research give the practical help to the translators in Indonesia. It makes them more concerned to make their translation sounds more like how people really talk. This can make their work better and help different languages communicate well. This also can help make sure translation don't just have right meaning, like I have said before, but also fit the culture, the socio-culture. And then about the collaboration, mixing both ways, machines and English expert, or maybe the language expert, they can save time, and at the same time they have the high quality translation product. And for people in general using translation tools, it matters for people who use this Google Translate. Knowing about how translations sound natural helps if you want to talk with someone who speaks a different language. You cannot only depend on this machine, but also you still need the English or language experts in helping you communicate with others, especially in writing one, because this is translation product. And then when you're talking to someone from a different place, you want to be polite and show you understand their culture. So my research helps once again to respect different culture. So you really need the English or language expert to help you use this Google Translate as your translation machine tools. And then avoiding confusion. If you know about natural sounding translations, you can stop the problems where people might not understand you correctly, your translation product correctly. This way you can have smooth conversation and not worry and don't worry about misunderstandings. So I hope that in the translation field in Indonesia, they can produce more high quality translation product with not only focus on the accuracy and the right or wrong in their translation product in the target text, but they also concerned about naturalness. So we as a reader of their translation product can really enjoy the translation text that we have read. It helps us so much to learn in any languages, and we really hope that we can enjoy the product itself. Thank you so much, thank you so much, Prof. Rudi, for this opportunity, and I hope you are really good in your place right now, since I know you are not in Semarang, and I hope to see you soon. And I say thank you for all that you have given to me as your students, and thank you so much for guiding me in this whole thesis, and I really respect your help and your guidance for me. Thank you so much, and may we have meet in the future really soon. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.